Let's talk about Maven Local and directly consuming a jar file so that we can make dependencies between our submodules and move forward. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. If you recall, at the very beginning episode of this mini-series, I said that if you are making a sub-project, parent project structure, you are free because you can change whatever you need in any of the submodules and then use it directly in another module without the need to publish anything anywhere. And that was the only gain using that approach. And I told you that using the approach that we are doing right now, we are struggling because each time we want to use a submodule, we need to upload it into somewhere and then call it from that place and depend on it. And I said that it's a problem with this approach. However, after the recording of that video, I remembered something. In Gradle, we have two different ways to bypass this problem. One is that we can use something called Maven Local. And as you see, I uncommented the publishing section, and of course there are a few changes inside this code, so you can pause the video and compare it and type it. The only thing that we are doing here, we are making the group ID, the artifact ID, and the version, and then we have a publishing task. Now, if you want to know what is a Maven Local, you need to come back into your computer. Normally it's on the Windows installation folder. If you are using Windows, then under users, your user, you will have this .m2. Now, normally you may not see these folders that start with dot. If you don't see them, you can just come here and click, and after the username, type .m2 and hit enter, and you will be in the folder. Or alternatively, you can go into the options and turn on the show of protected folders or system folders, something like this, and it will show up. Now, this is where your local cache of Maven is happening. Basically, each time you are running something that will cache something locally for you from Maven, it will be here. Under the .m2, you will see this repository folder. Going inside, you will see some folders. Maybe there are more, maybe there are less. That depends on what you did so far. For example, Antler and com, inside com, you will have GitHub, Google, and everything else. Basically, the whole hierarchy of the Maven dependencies that you used so far for your modding. Also, you notice this. Jiraiya is my name. And under here, I have inventory, Jira lib, logger, and reference. These are the libraries that I was working on. However, now you see this, ultra.io underline base. And if I open ultra.io underline base as the group, because jiraiya.ultra.io underline base is exactly what we made as Maven group. So jiraiya.ultra.io base. And then the archive base name here is used as the artifact ID. So this is the artifact now, ultra.io underline base. And inside here, you see that we have a Maven metadata local, and then the version. Under the version, we have the jar files. And this is your Maven local. Now, to use Maven local, you can come back and on dependencies, add Maven local. So we have a Maven Central that was there, but now we can use Maven local. And from now, if we want to consume anything from Maven local, like anything else, we can use mod implementation. Now, this part is our group colon. This part is our artifact, and after a colon, this is our version. We remember that for the group, we were using jiraiya.ultra.io underline base. And for the artifact, we are using ultra.io underline base, and this is the version. So if I just add this line, and of course, I need to call this into the hierarchy, and we will talk about how we can do it later. But using this will cause the consuming of our jar files under the Maven local, okay? Keep in mind, we can be smart. For example, instead of having ultra.io underline base as the group, we can change it. We can come back into the gradle.properties under the base, and we can call it as Maven group for jiraiya.ultra.io, and then the artifact will be base, for example, or ultra.io underline base. It doesn't matter. For example, here we can use base. So now the dependency would be jiraiya.ultra.io colon base colon the version, and the folder structure would be jiraiya ultra.io, and inside ultra.io we will have a base, and under the base we will have the version and everything else. Of course, in another sub project, if you want to utilize this, we will come back, and for example, the effect, we can change this to ultra.io and then the effect as the archive base name. Remember, this is not ideal because doing this, we are changing our archive base name here. So instead of archive base name, we can use a new variable called Maven Maven underline artifact equals to, this is the base. And I will cut it, I will paste it up. And now instead of the base name, here when I'm using the artifact ID, we will call Maven underline artifact. And now I can copy this, and this is the effect. I will paste it, and this will be effect. Now I can safely change this one because these two are related to Maven, and the archive base name is what we use for making the jar file. Doing it, if I use the publish task under tasks, publish to Maven Local, not this one, but publish to Maven Local, if I had run it on the effects side by side the base, now it would be a folder called effect, and then inside effect we would have a new version and a new XAML file, and inside the version we would have our jar files for the ultra.io underline effect. Using Maven Local means that each time you want to do something on the base project, for example, right now I need to run the datagen on there, so let's do it. Under fabric we run the datagen. I will let it finish and I will come back and I will talk to you about few caveats here. Okay, as you notice, I added 3 files because I had 1025 files and now I have 1028. So I generated 3, but I written 2. I don't understand that part, but anyways, oh yeah, you had 27. Anyway, as you see, I written 2 new files running the datagen. Now I have to come back inside publishing and publish to Maven Local. However, now we have a little bit of a problem. If I just publish to Maven Local, we will have a conflict between versioning, and I'm not sure how this will behave. Will it delete the files and recreate them, or what will happen? Honestly, I don't know. You can just give it a try. Alternatively, you can come to gradle.properties at the end, change this mod version, for example, increment this minimal version by 1 and then publish, and then you have to change the dependencies everywhere else, or you have to come into your Maven Local and delete this version folder and the jars inside of it, and then republish to Maven so that it will create these files in EU, and that would save you from going back and changing the subversions both in here and every other project that is depending on this guy. However, there is another way around it. Now keep in mind, even if we use Maven Local, we have to do something. We have to generate our jar files, because the whole concept of having this structure is to be able to publish these jar files and let players install them in whatever shape they need to. So how about we directly make dependencies to the jar file? If you take note under my decoration build.gradle, I have another way of implementing. This one was using Maven Local. However, we can say mod implementation files and then directly guide the Gradle toward the build folder, the name of the jar file, and the version of the jar file. And this way we make sure that we are not dependent on Maven Local, so we can comment this guy if we want to, and we are directly working with jars. Okay, still I ran a task. I ran the datagen task to generate 2 new files for myself. So eventually I have to build the jar files. However, now we are happily able to do that because it will delete these 2 files for me and recreate them for me. If I want to, I can just manually delete these 2 because it's sitting inside the project. It's much easier, but it's safe because we know that it will delete them, it will regenerate them for me, and the whole thing is just a breeze. And as you see, it's just finished the build. So just to make sure, let's take a look at this Explorer and open this jar file using a WinRAR, for example. And now I should be able to go into the assets, ultra.io base, models, and item. I should see this cast base because it was the thing that I generated, okay? And I'm seeing it here, so I'm sure that it was generated. However, let's talk about this scenario. I did delete it. If I didn't delete, that was exactly how you could double check your Maven Local. You could just open it in WinRAR and check if whatever you added is there or not, and everything else would work. However, as I said, I prefer to use with jar files because honestly, we have to create this jar file. And if we have to create the jar file, why not use that jar file directly? Now, the only downside of using it this way is that we are not adding the source file into the external library to look into. And honestly, who needs that? The whole source is in front of your eyes. Using this approach means that now we can convert this whole project project from a separated modular base into, again, a sub-module parent project, and we can make sure that the dependencies will not cause any race issue for things like data gen or loading order, because we are just depending on jars here and things will work better. We will give it a try in another video in future. Now that we had talked about this approach, let me talk about the commands and get done with this video, because honestly, this was not a big video and we have time to do that. So just remember, you need to use Maven Local with publishing if you want to, and your build.gradle on any depending mod, like here on the decoration, needs to have that Maven Local and needs to just consume from Maven Local. If you do consume the jars from your hard drive, you don't need that Maven Local. Now, by consuming, we are talking about depending on that file. The consuming is a technical term in Gradle language. Okay, let's talk about the command and get done with it. The command was added to the project. As you see, we have a separate task list for the command. And honestly, it was not hard. We just copy pasted the code all over the place. And as you see, the assets are empty and we have these configs. The configs just have the command config and nothing else. We have the config keys. That was a part of the original reference. However, I took it out, and as a class, we only use one single config here. For references, we have these strings, and now you see that I added 3 tag keys for blocks. And this is the change that I want to talk about. Previously, we were using these lists of blocks, and whenever we were getting a block, let me open the command for you, we were comparing the block names. For example, here, we would say if the fluid list, for example, contains the name of the block that we are finding here, and that was something by itself. However, now we can get rid of that name because now we want to make sure it's not air. Okay, how about instead of this, we say state.is of blocks.air. If it's not air, then so be it. And we are safely removing this mumbo jumbo for getting the name and comparing name to something else. And honestly, we have to change this block now, because previously we were checking the type and we were adding different lists to a list of a string. Now we are not using it anymore. So we have to handle things differently. First, we don't have that block list. Then, as I said, we don't have the name, and here we can't compare the name. Instead, I added this little utility method, and we are doing it here. So we are saying if the type is OR, then just check if the block state is inside the OR whitelist tag. Or if it's block, then check if it's inside block whitelist tag. Or it's fluid, then we compare with fluid. If none of them, it's all. For all, we were using block and OR, so we are checking an OR condition here. We are saying if it's inside block whitelist or if it's inside OR whitelist. And that will return a true or false, so that I can use it now in many different places. For example, here, let me do this. I can use, instead of containing fluid, I'm just sending it there, and we are sure that it will check the type with the fluid. And basically, this is a little bit of a problem because we are not checking the type here. Okay, remember, it's just a string, so we can directly send fluid here. Boom. And then we are saying else if it is a block, then block. So we are checking if fluid block list. Okay, now I'm directly checking if it's inside the tag. We are not using this list anymore. And honestly, inside here, instead of this, I could use the whole thing here. So like so, because this part is handling the boundary inside water. Okay, we are just creating some obsidians. So we are saying that, hey, if we are inside fluid whitelist, it's the same thing now. Then put obsidian. Else if we are still inside fluid whitelist, but we are not air, then again do the obsidian. Other than that, here we were using that blocks string array, and this is exactly where we need to send in the type. So we are utilizing that type here and then get done with the command. So we don't need this name. However, I may keep it as a comment because this is how you can get the name of the block. This returns, this is for getting the name of a block. I will keep it here for learning. And that's it. That's a recommendation for myself that I keep it there. People may learn from it. And other than that, this class is the same. Okay. However, now that we added tags inside DataGen, we need to provide tags. And this is how I'm generating those tags now. Instead of list, I'm just using the vanilla blocks, for example, for or for the block. This one is the big one, and then the fluids, and converting the names inside the block relative and converting the name to the relative block from vanilla and added them to tags. And then finally, I generated the DataGen. So I get these lists, as you see. dependency as tags for block. And as you see, these are under common. So I will change it right now because honestly, I don't want common tags, but I want tags. So again, now I need to come back inside here under tasks, fabric, run datagen. And as you see, the C tags block became empty. So just delete that. And you see that now my tags moved under the tags block for the ultra IO command. The nice part about it is that whenever we are using the tag, we are opening the door for modpack developers. They can just create this hierarchy in their data pack and then add these JSON files, copy the content, and at the end of the content, they can add their own blocks to be covered by these commands. And that's just the nice part of it. Also, we have the English section for the language file using datagen. That's nothing new for you. Okay, in the next video, I will start adding different parts of the mod one after another. As you see, I just created the hierarchy and the structure, but only the base and the command are being highlighted. The reason is that these two are being loaded inside Gradle. The others are not loaded yet. To load them, we can just open one thing, and on build.gradle, we can just right click and hit this link Gradle project. This will cause the effect, for example, to be added to Gradle, and then like any other time you open a new mod inside Gradle, it will start working with dependencies, reading everything. However, before I do that, I make sure that I'm cleaning it properly because honestly, the effect is not using the base. And as you recall, we already identified it. The effects subproject is not using the base and it does not have any config and no machinery for sure, but I will keep my libraries there just in case. Energy, nope. PAL, we are using it. Jade, I don't think so. The mod menus and then the rest are just be gone. One day, maybe I will sit back and figure how we can use our own implementation of Critiflight to get rid of PAL. But for time being, let's just move forward. And other than this, every other section should be okay. Now let's go into Gradle properties, make sure that this is Ultra IO effect and we are using this Maven artifact. This is something that, yeah, I need to make sure that I fixed it. Also, I noticed that when I was importing things, I derped. For example, this is reference effect, this is reference effect. Sometimes I derped and for example, this is reference base now. It should be reference effect and new reference effect. However, these can be fixed after importing your project. That doesn't harm anyone. So now we want to import our effect project. Just right click on build.gradle and link Gradle project. As you see, the build tab becomes active. It says syncing Ultra IO effect. And when it's done and finished, you will have a new whole Gradle entry for Ultra IO underline effect. And from that moment forward, you can add parts of your original mod, for example, the effects part from your original mod into your final multi-sub project structure. And I will do it behind the scene for the effect at the very least, and maybe for the tools and machina, I'm not sure, but battle, I will do that behind the scene. For decoration, we have to sit back and think and talk about a huge problem that we have right now, and there is no easy way to fix it other than learning a new thing that is access wideners. And honestly, access wideners is something that I wanted to talk about when I was talking about mixin. However, now we need to push it forward. And as you see, the Ultra IO effect came in and we have the effect here being highlighted. Something that you should make sure that you are careful is that whenever you are working on a sub project, close other projects. It's really easy if I open the command and the effect, and if I open the source files and go into Java, it's really easy to get confused between these hierarchies and, for example, miss where you are opening something, especially on the early stage when you are adding these folders and want to rename these things and make the project ready to roll. Please make sure that you are closing every other project so that you are looking only on this hierarchy. And then the moment you start working on a sub project, think about that sub project. For example, the effect is all about potions, enchantments, and other effects that we have on the player. So we don't have block entities or renderers, we don't have blocks or block items, then we don't have any item. I don't think that we will add any fluid. We don't add paintings or I don't know, screens or sounds or word related stuff. So just delete them. As you see, I kept the mixin. We don't have any entities. I kept the command. No, I don't need commands. Okay, network, for example. I'm not sure if I will have anything related to network in future in this mod. Particles, for example. I'm not sure if I want to add my own particles to the game or not, or a special potion or effect or not. If that is the case, we will handle them later enter, and I'm keeping them right there. Recipes, custom recipes for the block entities, bye-bye to that. And this will become your bare minimum folder structure to work with the effects. Also, take note, whenever you are opening a build.gradle for a project that is already included in Gradle, it will show up in parentheses with the name. It's a really good thing because it can help you identify something. Problem is that Gradle.properties does not do that. So you make sure that you are just doing the right file, working with the right file, and doing the right thing. Now, I will close this video here, and the next video when I come back, I have finished the effect. I may finish the Goo and Machina because we are not coding there right now, and I will finish the tools. The storage, Wood and Word are already empty, and I will not load them inside the project right now, or I may port them inside the project. I'm not sure. And after that, we will talk about decoration because we will have to talk about access wideners, and that is a good thing to handle here. Access wideners are not a very complex thing, but a very good utility to have. Also, one last thing, when you have multiple projects and you want to sync one special project, you can right click on that project and reload the Gradle project, and this will cause the whole reloading of the syncing of that Gradle project. Or alternatively, if you are just changing the dependencies, refresh Gradle dependencies. Other than that, if you want to sit back and have a cup of coffee, you can just use the sync on the top level and it will sync every project for you again. Just remember, whenever you are finished with a project and you are sure that right now you don't have anything to do with that project anymore, please build that project. And if you are using Maven Local, please make sure that you have published that project into the Maven Local so that your dependencies will work. For example, my battle will be dependent on effect. So if I want to make it right now happen under the dependencies, I have to add these two jar files into the build. I have the base right now, but I don't have the effect. And if I don't have the effect.jar, the syncing will not work. So keep these things in mind. And remember, if the effect is using PAL and battle is depending to the effect, so your battle needs to be dependent on PAL. Have fun, everyone. Bye.
If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.